Mike Breece, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Well, you are a very well-known person in the videography business, and we've known each other kind of in passing, not real well over the last 30 years, because you married somebody I went to high school with.
Correct.
Even though I didn't really know Kelly that much. But we reconnected recently by chance and started talking business and thought, you know what, you should come tell your story on the podcast.
That sort of shocked me.
Oh, really?
I've seen your podcast. You have some heavy hitters, so I wasn't sure I was ready for this.
No, you're definitely ready for this. So you started your illustrious career in the videography world, working a camera at your church, Centerville, Tennessee. Did you ever think about back then that one day you were going to be running presidential inaugurations and Academy Awards? I mean, tell me about what it was like back then.
Not in my wildest dreams. I mean, I started doing audio at the church. It's a small town, but it was a big church. And they were really ahead of their time as far as their audio and their video portions. They had great equipment, and I was just a kid, and I started running the audio board. I was 13 or 14, and then they got some camera equipment and started putting our service on a public access channel, a cable public access channel. So that was a big deal. And so I did that from 15, 16, 17, and I graduated high school at 17. I was one of those folks. And then my sister was older. She was already out going to college, and Mom and Dad asked me one time, like, what are you going to do for a living? You know, your sister's already out in college. And I was like, I have no idea, but I know what I like to do is I like to operate camera at church, and that would be really cool if I could get paid for that. So we just started looking into how that happens and what do you have to do to get a job. And next thing I found out is being an intern is an excellent way to get a position, but to be an intern, you have to be going to school somewhere. So that's why I applied to Nashville Tech, because it was easy, I thought, you know. My sister was going to Tennessee Tech. She had a 4-year program, and I just wasn't into school, you know. I just wanted to get out. And then Nashville Tech had this 1-year program, and I'm like, yeah, I can do anything for 1 year. So I was like, let's do that. And 44 people started and 10 graduated. So it weeded them out pretty good. It was a pretty tough 1 year. But while I was going to Nashville Tech for that 1 year, I was interning at Channel 4. I signed up, I got on, and I did 3 consecutive internships at Channel 4 doing the 6 and 10 news and all the shows they did.
And Channel 4 is the local NBC affiliate,
correct,
right here in
correct.
Nashville. What was that like being an intern at Channel 4 back then? That was in, what, the 90s?
That was 83, 84, actually.
Oh, wow, earlier than I thought.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So it was a big deal, you know, especially if I would go back home, you know, people started figuring out that I worked at Channel 4. And back then, it was a big deal. Yeah. Even to shoot the news, so 6 and 10 news, it was a big deal. So that was pretty cool, you know. Early on, I was just a kid, and people would come up to me and, so I hear you working at Channel 4. And I'm like, yeah.
So who was the big anchor or news person during those days? Who was it?
Dan Miller and Demetria Kaladinos.
Demetria.
Yeah.
Wow, yeah. For those of us that are from Nashville, those two names have been around forever. And neither one of them are there anymore, right?
That is correct.
Demetria kind of left under some weird circumstances a few years ago.
Correct.
And Dan, what happened to Dan?
He passed a few years back.
That's what I thought. I thought he had passed away.
But man, what an anchor for this entire town, you know.
Yeah. So what was it like being on the other side of the camera? Because we see things like Ron Burgundy, which I know is a comedy, but are there any elements to that are true?
Some of it is true, you know. They have to put on somewhat of a game face for the audience at home. And so you get to see some of that behind the scenes, and some of it's good, some of it's not so good, but yeah, we'll leave it at that.
What's the funniest thing you saw happen as a camera operator?
Well, for me personally, while I was working at Channel 4, back then they let some of the interns actually run camera during the live broadcast. So I was on a camera that wasn't as busy as the other 3. However, we would do the bumper shots in and out of commercial. Well, I remember one night I was doing a bumper shot, going to commercial, and the director's counting down from 10, and I'm doing an on-air move with this big, huge camera, you know, and I'm petting down, I'm looking, my shot's looking great. What I had forgotten is that their home base set has stairs, and they go down and they stick out a lot farther than you would think. So Dan Miller's sitting up there, you know, we're going to commercial, and he's, you know, shuffling through his papers like they would do, right? And then the director's counting down 5, 4, and about the time he hit 4, I hit the set. I mean, I hit it hard, and the camera just shakes. And about that time, you see Dan Miller go like that, looks at me, and then 3, 2, 1, they go to black. And I was devastated. I was humiliated. I thought my TV career was over before it got started. And I remember Dan saying, after they went to commercial, I thought you were going to knock me out of my chair. And so it took a while to shake that off, I got to be honest. I went home and I was just like, you idiot, you know.
How did you shake it off?
That was not easy because I was young back then and no support group really, and I just, time helps heal, you know. But it took at least a couple of weeks just to get back on camera, really. I was just that shaken up, so it was crazy.
Did anybody speak some good words to you to kind of make you reconsider and say, hey, this is okay?
Yeah, some of the older guys there who'd been there forever, you know, they're like, it's just TV, it's not brain surgery, you know. We're not saving lives here, we're just doing some TV, so shake it off, and you're going to make another mistake, so you just got to learn how to deal with it.
Well, as you were working the camera in those early days, was there a moment where you thought, yeah, this is the thing, this is my calling, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life?
You know, while I was working at Channel 4, one of the directors from Channel 4 had left Channel 4 and went to a network here in Nashville called the Nashville Network. And it used to be its own cable station. It's not anymore, it's Spike TV. They sold out. But that director had gone to TNN, the Nashville Network, and he had started a live 90-minute variety show, music show, interview show. And one of his camera operators was going on vacation, and he asked me to come fill in for the guy that's on vacation for 2 weeks. And I went and filled in for him, and it's live 90 minutes, not just the Channel 4 area, nationwide. And we're shooting these people that nobody ever heard of, Reba McEntire and Randy Travis and all these folks that had just come on the scene. And we're shooting all of this great music. And that's when it hit me, this like, wow. This is cool. This is really cool.
What show was that?
Nashville Now, hosted by Ralph Emery.
The Ralph Emery Show.
Yeah.
Was that the beginning of the Ralph Emery Show?
It was the beginning of his night show. You know, he had the early morning show
Right.
at Channel 4.
Right.
So he did that for years and years. I don't know how he did it, but he would do that show from 5:30 to like 7 a.m. and then go to TNN and work that show from like 8 to 9:30. So a long day for Ralph Emery, but anyway.
I remember going to a Nashville Now show. Clint Black was the guest host the time I went.
Oh, neat.
Because it was in high school, and my best friend in high school was dating a girl who worked at TNN, and she got us tickets, and Clint Black was hosting that night. And I remember going, and Clint Black was there, of course, Aaron Tippin, Billy Dean, Little Texas.
Wow.
It was a phenomenal, as an early 90s country fan.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
It was so great, but I remember going backstage afterwards. We had backstage passes, and I ended up getting Clint Black's autograph. And then Billy Dean was talking to somebody, and I walked up and what I thought was politely, here I am, a 16, 17-year-old kid, waiting my turn, and he just turned to me and said, "What?" And I said, "Mr. Dean, I can get your autograph." And he took it and signed it and shoved it back at me. And
Wow.
I was like, and I've never asked for a person's signature since then.
Wow.
Not once.
It does happen.
It does.
You just never know who they're going to be.
So the broadcasting industry, I can imagine, is known for its demands, and it's very unforgiving, especially in live. So what challenges have you faced that significantly shaped your growth because of those demands?
What challenges have I faced? Just being away from family was the big thing. You know, early on, it's here's the thing. You don't want to say no. So if you have a full-time job, it's amazing because you always have work coming in. But when you go freelance and you're just waiting for the phone to ring for your next job, you don't want to say no to anybody. So what happens is when you have some good breaks and you start getting busy, well then you're just gone a lot, and your family life can really suffer. So I think that was my biggest struggle, was trying to balance family life and professional life, and I didn't want either one of them to suffer, and that's a tough one.
How'd you do it? Because it seems like you did a really good job at that.
Well, you know, I could have done better. I could have made a lot more money than I made, but I chose to balance it healthy, at least I think.
Let's take a quick break to thank our amazing sponsors for making this podcast possible.
I finally got it. It's the brand new Relay credit card. So check it out. I'm gonna do a little unboxing for you so you can check this out. So here we go. Nice little case, kind of like the American Express. You know, they're not playing. They're doing it right. Oh, look at this. There's a quote right inside. It says, "Success is having to worry about every damn thing in the world except money." Johnny Cash. That's pretty good. I've not heard that one. Oh, this is nice. A little thing on the back, up to 1.5% cash back, no annual fees or interest, 30-day billing cycle. And there it is. It's the Relay credit card. It's a Visa. So I'm not going to show you my number, but there it is. Look at that. Boom. Go to therealjasonduncan.com/relay.
Thanks for listening to our sponsors. Now, back to the show.
Son was playing baseball. I never wanted to miss a baseball game. My daughter was in dance and cheerleading, and I never wanted to miss a game that she was cheering on. So it was a situation where I just had to make a choice, what's important. So I think that's the toughest thing is balancing that out, especially young in your career, or when I first started my business, I didn't want to say no to anybody.
So you made that transition from broadcast to running your own company, ProJib. You started ProJib, what year, 98?
Yeah, I worked at Nashville Network for 13 years, doing all the shows they did, which was amazing because they just had a variety of everything. I mean, they had music shows, they had cooking shows, and then the remote trucks that they had, we would go out and do drag races, and we would do super bikes in Daytona, and we would do NASCAR, did NASCAR for 10 years. So, but just being at a different racetrack every weekend, it is just tough, on a family. So you have to get your quality family time during the week if you're gone every weekend. So that was what I was dealing with back then.
And when you transitioned from that to ProJib, what was the biggest challenge going from broadcast, working for somebody else, to doing your own thing?
Nobody to blame. Being the boss is like, it's great and all, but you're the man. I mean, there's nobody to fall back on. Whether you make a great decision or whether, you make a decision that costs you a lot of money, it's your fault. So that's the tough one, is just going with your gut. And, it's like I just tried to create an environment and keep a lot of good people around me in my personal life and my business life. And I think that was sort of the key to ProJib Inc. taking off, is just surround yourself with people that are better than you, and you'll be taken care of,
Who was your first hire at ProJib?
Wow. Well, I know another guy, Brett Skelton, who also grew up in my hometown, Centerville, who also went to the same church that I did, whose dad, Bill Skelton, taught me how to run camera at that church. So there was a big tie in there. So when I started my company, he's like 10 years younger than me. So when I started my company, I had already left the Nashville Network, started my own company, and this guy calls me up one day and he's like, "Hey, my dad said to give you a call. I need a job." And I was like, wow, I'm not sure I'm hiring, but who is this? He's like, "This is Brett." And anyway, I said, "You know what? Just come follow me around. I'm going to show you everything I know about these pieces of equipment." And man, he's still with me. I mean,
Wow.
he's still with me after all this, 28 years now. So excellent. I sent him to the Olympics back in 2002. I mean, that's the level of a guy he is. He's a very, very talented operator.
Now, you've done a lot of things, as you said. You've done NASCAR, you've done music videos, you've done live shows, you've done drag races, you've done television shows, you've done commercials. Out of all those, what's the most challenging?
Well, the any outdoor shoot is the most challenging. I'll put it that way. In NASCAR, it was either 98 degrees, and we're down on the asphalt, or it's 20 degrees in Rockingham, North Carolina, and you're trying to do a shoot. It was either too hot, too cold, windy, or raining. And if it's raining, they still have to go on the air and say it's raining, look around. So just adapting to the environment is the toughest part for me, and to keep all of my electronics dry and working. And again, if you're the owner, it's your responsibility. So that's another thing. It's like, if you're working for somebody else, it's, oh, it got wet, man, I don't know. Saw smoke come out of it, it just stopped working. But when you're the owner, it's like, you gotta keep the stuff dry and keep it working.
What's the most expensive piece of equipment you ever had to purchase?
Wow. These stabilized heads now, okay, where you put the camera in there and they have gyros that keep everything solid, those are pretty pricey now. And the shot over is one of the leading in the industry at the moment. And it's over $100,000 just for the head, So that can get expensive.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Takes a lot of rentals to pay that back.
Yeah, that's right.
For sure.
So do you rent your equipment out too? Is that part of the deal, or
We
you
do.
just okay?
That's the thing, is like when I first started, I was working so hard and just 70, 80 hours a week, just busting it. And I finally figured out that there's only one you, and you can only work so many hours, and then you're done. But the equipment is where the money is made. So I learned early on, buy a bunch of equipment and let that equipment work for you, and you can be making money while you're on the couch. So that has worked out well for me, and my wife too. My wife has a teleprompter company. When we first got married, she's like, I could never have my own company, and I was just convinced her, like, that's where it's at, is working for yourself, owning your equipment, so that you can rent your equipment even if you're not there and you have other operators there. So it's worked for her, it's worked for me, and I think the key is just starting out small. That's what I did. I mean, I was a one-man band. I was just me and one jib, and a jib is a camera crane. It's just a long pole with a camera on the end of it that's remote control from this end. That's what a jib is, if people don't know what a camera jib is. So I started out with one jib, and I was actually working my full-time job. My promise to myself was, buy a jib, work your full-time job until you pay it off, and then quit your job. That was my business plan. So I would start my company not in debt for my jib. So in July 31st, 1998, that happened. And I was like, wow, now what are you gonna do? You really gonna do it, or are you gonna chicken out? Because my boss was my best friend at the Nashville network. He gave me all the great jobs, and but I called him up that night, and I was like, I don't know how to tell you this. I know people would kill for my job that I have, but I'm giving my 2-week notice, and I'm going to quit and try to give it a shot on my own. And that's what I did, and never looked back. It just, and like 5 or 6 months later, Brett came on board, and the business was picking up. I had to purchase my second jib, but literally, I have funded it throughout my entire company. So it's like, personally, I've been debt-free since like 2000, and business-wise, I've been debt-free since like 2002. So you know what? It goes back to the old Dave Ramsey way, but it does work, whether you like the guy or not. The principles do work, and me and my wife both just live by that, personally and professionally. So we've just always lived debt free. And if you live debt free, you don't have to make a lot of money to live a great life.
Mm-hmm. And if you make a lot of money, it's even better.
Oh, it's a lot better.
Well, so leading ProJib for 28 years is no small feat. So I would ask you, what have been the leadership principles that you've been able to put in place that have helped you sustain success for so long?
Man, the old golden rule goes a long way in our household. I mean, I truly do try to treat others like I want to be treated. And I think that's made a difference. When I first started my company, another guy was wanting to go in business with me and do a partnership. And at first I was like, this might be a great idea, because he was well known. And I talked to my dad that night, and I said, Dad, what do you think about this idea? And he's like, son, I don't mind you starting your own company, but don't do it with somebody else. He's like, that's all I'm going to tell you. He's like, in a partnership, somebody always feels like they're getting the raw deal. You may start out as friends, and it may go a year or 2 years. Eventually, one of the partners is going to feel like they're doing more than the other, and there's going to be resentment, and it's going to go south. And so I told this other guy, I've changed my mind. I'm not going to do this company with you. He went ahead and started his company and started asking partners to come on board. And I hadn't even started my company yet. So he wound up being the powerhouse in this area because he gained a lot of people and he gained a lot of equipment, and he was my biggest competition. So I started my company, little one-man band, just me and one jib, and I just kept going and just kept going. And I kept my overhead down. I didn't have a big fancy, shop. I did a pole barn in my backyard, concreted the floor. That was my shop. And anyway, long story short, I'm 28 years in the business now, and they went out within 10 years. The partners started fighting, just as my dad suggested, and it didn't go well,
How did your dad know that?
Man, just that wisdom, just that dad wisdom.
Did he have an experience as a business owner?
He didn't. He worked for the town of Centerville as the water superintendent for 40 years, Not even a college degree, but probably the smartest man I've ever known.
That's great.
Yeah.
Is your dad still with you?
He's not. I've lost him 3 years ago, but man, oh man, what an impression he made on me.
Well, that was a big conversation he had with you back then, because he's right, and I think the people listening to the show can attest many times over. I can too. I've got some big failures in my story of entrepreneurship, and they can both two big ones I immediately think about go to partners.
Wow.
And it could have been totally eliminated had I just took your dad's advice.
Thanks, Pop.
Yeah, a little too late for me though. Well,
Sorry about that.
So you've worked on some of the world's most watched events. What do you think the Mike Breece legacy is going to be in this industry?
Man, I just hope that people remember me as just a good dude. I really want to be known as somebody that was just a good guy.
Let's take a quick break to thank our amazing sponsors for making this podcast possible.
As an entrepreneur running multiple businesses, effective communication is critical for me. I've tried all kinds of outreach tools over the years, but none have compared to Dubb when it comes to driving real results, and that's DUBB. I was one of Dubb's first users. I think it was like 7 years ago when they first launched, and I've been a loyal customer ever since. Dubb has completely transformed my prospecting, my client communication strategy, and here's why. Dubb makes it simple to record personal video messages and share them across email, SMS, social media, and more. And this brings back the face-to-face connection that's missing from most digital outreach. And what happens is my prospects instantly feel more engaged when they can put my face to my name. I end up building a stronger relationship faster by incorporating these video messaging into my workflow. Dub also provides tracking and analytics so I can see exactly who engages with my videos and how they respond to them. Their automation and their CRM features help me nurture leads and close more deals. I mean, that's what we're trying to do, right, as entrepreneurs. So after using Dub for years, I absolutely can't recommend them enough. I mean, Ruben, those guys over there are phenomenal. I love Darius. They're all great guys. It's become an invaluable tool that I depend upon to run my businesses efficiently. And if you want to boost your outreach and see amazing results like I have, head over to therealjasonduncan.com/dub. That's DUBB, and you can try it completely for free. No credit card required. You get the first 50% off your first 2 months, by the way, if you use my link. You need to take your prospecting to the next level with video messaging from Dub. They're my go-to sales communication platform for nearly 7 years and counting. Go to therealjasonduncan.com/dub. Try it for free, no credit card required, and you'll get 50% off your first 2 months as well.
Thanks for listening to our sponsors. Now, back to the show.
And help people out. I'm 41 years in the business this year, and people still come up to me and say, hey, can we grab coffee? Can I pick your brain? And somebody helped me. Somebody opened the door for me, which allowed me to go and improve myself. And I'll never forget that. So I try to help as many young folks as I can. And it's very rewarding, but they got to want it. It's like, whether you're wanting to be a camera operator or you're wanting to be a CPA, I mean, those early years, you just got to get in there and grind. And, it's not pretty. And it takes a lot of time and a lot of effort and a lot of discipline. So that's what I want to be remembered as. Just a good dude, pretty good camera operator, but, man, he tried to help as many people as he could.
What do you think the long-term plan is for ProJib? Is this going to be a legacy business, or are you going to leave it to the kids, or are you going to sell it? What are you going to do with it?
It's a good question. I never really crammed it down my kids' throats, either one of them, to see if they were interested in doing it or interested in carrying it on after I'm done with it. But my son Shane has recently shown more interest, and he has been working for me for about 5 years now. He knows how to set up everything and tear down everything, and now he's starting to operate. So that was pretty cool, him getting booked on some shows lately. And I was like, I didn't see this coming, because he's a singer, songwriter, musician. That's where his heart is. That's where his passion is, and he's pretty good at it. But we all know how tough it is to make it in that business. So here lately, he's been showing some interest in wanting to do more shooting. And so who knows? That might be pretty cool. My daughter's already a professional makeup artist, so she did 8 national spots last year, her first year out. So she's killing it. So we may all be working for my daughter one of these days. But anyway, who knows? My son may take over ProJib.
What do you believe has been the one key to your success in all these years in the business?
I think just reaching out to folks that are better than me, having people around me to prop me up when I'm down, and just never looking back, I mean, I was so focused when I first started, just to make it, and then after I was paying the bills, you got to have goals. And my wife and I, our goal was to make $1 million, right? That's a lot of people's goal, I suppose. It was one of our goals. And you just grind and grind and grind and work and work and work. And you think you're never going to make $1 million, And then all of a sudden you look up and you've done it. And you're like, whoa, we're here. Now what? We got to make another goal. Well, it's like once you made your first $1 million, your second $1 million is a lot easier, because you know the process, you know the work it takes, you know the discipline it takes. So that becomes the next goal. And then it just becomes, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's just repeating it. And then it's like, that's that's what we have done in our little small business that we've created. But it worked for us, and it's just old-fashioned grandma common sense stuff, you know.
How do you define the word success?
Success, man. I would say success is a lot of things for me. I mean, for me and my wife and my family, it's just having enough money to do what we want whenever we want. That's number one in success. But success is also your health. I mean, it's huge. You can have all this stuff, but if your health has suffered, it's not success. You haven't been successful at anything. You just killed yourself trying to get to this point. So success is health for me, probably number one, and then just having enough time and money just to do what you want to do when you want to do it. That's the best.
Well, based on that definition, do you consider yourself to be successful?
I think I'm successful in the fact that thank the Lord, I'm healthy, and I've got a great relationship with my kids. I got a great relationship with my wife, and we're just best friends. And we get up in the mornings, we have coffee, and we figure out, what do we want to do today? Do we want to go biking? Do we want to go hiking? You know, and we'll literally go up in the office and do maybe an hour's worth of work, scheduling, taking phone calls, answering emails, and then we're off to whatever we want to do. So, I mean, yeah, I feel successful in the fact that I've been so blessed, and my whole family has our health. So, to answer that question, yes, I'm successful in that way, if that's what you consider success.
So if you could speak to the people listening to the show or watching the show on YouTube, and you know that most of them are entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs, what would be your best piece of advice?
My best advice for young folks starting their own company or just starting their own service, whatever it may be. For me personally, I think you have to be able and have to be willing to give away your talent, whatever that may be. For my case, it was operating a camera. I think you have to be willing to give away that talent for free for a short time until you get good enough that you can charge for it. And then when you get even better at it, you can charge even more for it. But a lot of young folks ask me, you know, how do you get your foot in the door? Well, for me, internships, that's the bomb. That's the ticket. So get you an internship somewhere in something that you enjoy, whether it's HVAC, plumbing, whatever, whether you get paid for it or not. So I worked for 9 months for free while I was going to college. But that 9 months gave me more education and hands-on experience than I could have gotten anywhere. So I think that's huge.
So favorite event you've ever worked on?
Oh, wow. That's a tough one, man. I will say this. Something that sticks in my mind is Billy Joel was doing a concert at Shea Stadium. And they were tearing down Shea Stadium, sort of like we are here in Tennessee, and building a new Shea Stadium in the parking lot, and then tear down the old one to make the parking lot. Sort of like what we're doing here in Tennessee. So Billy Joel was going to do the last concert in Shea Stadium. It sold out in like 11 minutes, 80,000 seats. Well, they freaked out. They were like, what? So they added a second night. So the concert was going to be called Last Play at Shea, but since they added another concert, it still had a baseball theme to it. It's called Double Play at Shea. So it sold out as well. So they're going to make a special out of it and put out a Blu-ray, DVD, and all this stuff. So we were up there shooting it, and it was the last night of the second show. And on headset, we kept hearing, there's a special guest, we're trying to get here, you know. And the stage manager, Billy Joel would do a song. We're towards the end of the set. Billy Joel would do a song, and he would look over at the stage manager, and the stage manager would be like, keep going, keep going. And so Billy would play another song. And it happened like 2 or 3 times. And finally, I hear on the headset, he's landed, and they're rushing him over here. Man, they kept it hush, hush. So I was on stage with my jib, shooting Billy Joel, and there's 80,000 people. And I heard on the headset, the eagle has landed, you know. So the stage manager gives Billy Joel the cue, we're good. And anyway, Billy Joel says, ladies and gentlemen, to end the show, I thought it fitting for the guy who opened this Shea Stadium in 1965 with the Beatles, closed Shea Stadium, ladies and gentlemen, Paul McCartney. And I look over and Paul McCartney is like right here.
Wow.
And I've done so much stuff that I don't get starstruck very much. I've worked with 5 presidents and just done a lot of stuff, right? But Paul McCartney is Paul McCartney. And man, it just like fired me up. And he walks right by me, goes on stage, and he sits down at the piano, and here I am shooting a close-up of Paul McCartney, and the crowd is absolutely going bananas. The place was just shaking, 80,000 people, just like you see in the movies. So, yeah, I'm pretty pumped up about that. I get nervous right now. It was a good night.
Who's the most inspiring person you ever met on set somewhere?
Now, that's a tough one. Inspiring. You have to think on that one a bit.
Well, you've met so many great people, and you've done so many great events, and you've been with presidents too. I mean, maybe one of them, maybe not. I don't know.
I'm telling you, one of the most interesting men that I've worked with, recently anyway, is Jordan Peterson.
Really?
And I don't know what side of the fence you are on, but anyway, as far as a very intelligent individual, I like what he has to say.
He's intense.
Very intense.
Is he like that in real life?
Absolutely, all day long.
On camera, off camera?
Indeed, same guy.
All right, jib or handled camera?
Jib.
Jib. Well, that's what you did.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So what one word would you use to describe your career?
Blessed. Golly, man. I've been so blessed. I mean, it's not like I haven't worked hard for it. I mean, there was those years, you know, where I was grinding and just tunnel vision. But golly, man, I've had so many good breaks. Just the right place at the right time, met the right people, doors were open. And man, I've just been so blessed. I don't deserve any of this.
Well, it's a blessing to have you on the show. I really appreciate you being here and sharing part of that story. And I like it because, you know, you're that bridge between entrepreneurship and show business. And what I don't think is a lot of people aren't considering that there is that bridge, that there's entrepreneurs all around show business. And so if you want to be in show business but you don't want to be in front of the camera, maybe there's opportunities to do sound or lights or post-production or, in your case, camera.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you again for being on the show.
Absolutely.
It's been an honor. I'm going to give you the last word. Anything you want to say to leave us with, words of wisdom or any kind of shout-outs you want to give?
Man, just a shout-out to my wife, you know. I mean, she's put up with this. Thank goodness she's in the business, which has helped. But man, oh man, she's put up with so much. Just me being on the road and her taking care of our family and kids and just getting them where they need to be. And it's hard, you know, but she's a trooper, man. She's a great business owner in her own right. But she ran her business and ran her family when I was, you know, off shooting NASCAR races and whatnot. So just my hat's off to that lady. I love her to pieces. So Kelly Breece, you got it going on. So.
That's great. Well, if you want to learn more about Mike and his company, go to ProJib.com. That's PROJIB.com. You can follow Mike at Breece Mike on Instagram. That's BREECEMIKE. Breece Mike on Instagram. Mike, thanks again for being here.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Attention business owners. Attention business owners. Feeling burnout from running your business? Uncertain if you're nearing burnout? Take our free 10-question business burnout test at businessburnouttest.com to discover where you stand. With just 10 quick questions, you'll learn how to immediately begin making changes to regain freedom and success. Cut your daily operations time in half. Improve your quality of life and prepare your business for your future exit without losing revenue or profit. Visit businessburnouttest.com now and take the test. Thank you for listening to another edition of The Root of All Success with the Real Jason Duncan. If you've enjoyed this week's episode, visit therootofallsuccess.com to access the show notes and other helpful resources. Follow Jason on social media at The Real Jason Duncan. See you again next time here on The Root of All Success.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.